What's going on, everybody? This is Lyndon, Debbie, and
Junior.
and we just sitting down, chatting a little bit, sharing some of our experiences. We like to go over what happens during the week, and we share some insight. So hopefully you get something out of us just sitting and chatting. All right. So we were talking. Saturday was interesting. That was interesting. Talking about I don't use names. So I will say one of the ladies came into the space and she was talking about what it's like to be in a relationship, but was not in a relationship. And then I mentioned how men want to be treated and what we like. And then she called me on it, right? So I guess the question that comes up to me as part of it, I would say to both of you, what do you feel like is most important when building rapport with a person? Because I don't think people build rapport well. I'm gonna say man to woman, woman to man, woman to woman, man to man. I just don't think people build rapport well. So give me a big tip you would give for building rapport with people.
As far as relationship, intimate,
Either I like intimacy, yes. Like how do you get closer to somebody with rapport?
I would say first have to know your place in the relationship, who does what, and don't step over the boundaries and try to be a different role that you're not.
Fair. Get messy.
I agree.
Like that. I'd say what's very important is the uncomfortable, authentic conversation. Having those conversations consistently will get you to build rapport. And the conversation needs to keep going.
Fair. So I know we don't sit down and chat like this ever, like guys. It's very rare for us to get together and to chat in general, right? So it's so interesting because the lie you hear, from yourself, from so many different spaces and places, is that you're alone, right? And then you sit down and you talk with other men, no matter their walk of life, and the first thing you realize is that every man is having the same type of experiences. They're just manifesting them in different ways, right? So it doesn't even have to necessarily be male to female, or it can be male to male as well. As far as again talking from our perspectives, and I actually agree. Rapport building is a lost art form by so many people. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that social media and texting, those different things have killed how important it is to build with someone just in general, right? So like I find myself now getting back to that, like creating like this space, right? Saying, all right, let's sit down and let's communicate. And it's like, damn, this feels pretty good. Because again, you don't feel like you're the only one with the opinion. And I feel like that happens a lot, right? Can either one of you speak on that? Again, I try not to use names, so it's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I go back to what it takes to build rapport and also holding each other. I learned this recently, holding someone to accountable space. If they say they're going to do something, making sure you don't avoid holding them accountable. That's showing love, that's building trust. And yeah, I think social media has a lot to like instilling this notion that we don't need to do those things together, or we don't need to look each other in the eye, and it's called with all due respect. So you have to like look someone in the eye, have the conversation, and social media kind of gives you that out to avoid that.
Yeah. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I would say this cellular device is like a human pacifier for us adults, and
Hey,
it's a way
guys.
from us to be able to hold conversations out in public. We are like in our own little bubble. Don't say hi, don't say nothing.
COVID made that way worse.
That's 6 feet.
Way worse. Like I could definitely say, I'm been an introvert my whole life, and now just me having small conversations that are usually decently intimate, right? Like obviously, when I'm teaching in space, I'm different, right? And it's because I need to be. I can't be the introvert in the front of the class. Nobody's going to learn anything, right? So ironically, I have to be more extroverted when I'm spreading the message or teaching. But for the most part, again, usually people don't notice unless you notice that I have interest intricate conversations that most people just can't keep their own opinions to themselves as part of, right? Like I'm just talking to somebody and then somebody else butts in, wants to be part of the convo. In this space particular, I've learned that I'm okay with that. But like, out in public, yeah, it feels bad. So I've had to be more extroverted in general and be okay with being a public figure in order to start having those conversations like, oh, we watching, even if they don't say they know you, even if they will act like they see you, they're still paying attention. So now everything I do is public consumption, right? Whether I want it to be or not. So obviously learning to be extroverted is part of that, right? It allowed for me to function, allowed for me to connect with you two. And like, it's all that, like, I agree, stand on your word, right? Like, that's an old lost art form. Like, stop saying you're gonna do shit you're not gonna do. I don't feel like that's cool. I ain't never been cool with it. Look, tell me you don't know instead of telling me yes, right? I'm okay, I just want the truth, right? And again, you can't lie, right? So be clear, I'm not saying that you can't never slip up, which would be considered a lie. I'm saying we need to be honest about what we're experiencing. That allows for me to have real communication. I meant to be here at 6, but I couldn't make it. Something happened, something came up, my bad. Then we can talk about it versus, nothing. How about nothing? That's what you get a lot of, nothing. And then you like go to check on them and then they're offended. It's weird, man. Our world has changed for sure. I like the baby pacifier thing, or the grown person pacifier. That's a fact.
And speaking to that, I think that's the parallel I draw between people feeling like, even though they're not, the pacifier is sequestering us and also making you feel like you're hiding, like other people can't see you.
Hiding behind the screen.
Yeah, so just getting in your head and realizing that you are hiding, even if it's just certain parts of yourself, it lets you feel like, oh, no one's paying attention to me. If I don't show up, I don't have to let them know why I didn't show up, And I had a lot of that going on inside my head, and I see it in a lot of other people where the phone separates us, so you feel like you don't need to be held accountable, that you can just do your own thing and not speak to the people around you about what it is you're doing or how you're moving. And yeah, that separates us.
You can easily lose yourself in something. You can create a new life outside of the real world.
You ain't got nothing to do with who you are and what you stand on. And then right. Again, I'm gonna give the male equivalent. You post shirtless pics, and all of a sudden you got people in your inbox who have no interest in you as a person, but have created you as an object of, let's say, lust in their minds. And all of a sudden you're talking to them people thinking that they respect and understand you, but they don't, right? I get that question a lot. It's like, as a trainer, why don't I make sure I got my shirt off more? I used to get that all the time in the beginning. Well, if you show people how you look, you get more clients. And I used to say, well, that's not what I want, right? I don't want anyone objectifying me. They're going to. I don't have a choice on that. But I can choose how I present myself while they choose to objectify me, right? So a lot of that is like, listen, I'm not trying to be nobody's boy toy. I'm a grown man who has earned the right to do what I want to do the way I want to do it. And that's like, again, that's cultivation, right? There's your rapport, there's your building. If I want to go with one of you guys, and if I tell you I'm going to show up to something, you genuinely believe I'm going to show up because I've shown up 4 to 5 different times before that. There's no question. I wish the internet didn't make that harder. Does that make sense? Like a lot of people, again, you send your representative so often that when the real you gets pushed to the forefront, most people don't even know how to build from there. So I hate it. I hate it and love it at the same time. Social media is a beautiful thing. There's a lot for us to make more connections, but it's also created exactly what we're dealing with today, which is a lot of disconnect right in space. The amount of I'm gonna be nice, say misconceptions I hear on a regular basis from people I have to talk to is insane. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's no connection in their life. So I would say GID, like, I know what GID was supposed to be for me when I started it, why I wanted to do it, right? And just recently, my wife, who's like let's call her the visionary in our house, said that we were going to double things. I don't know what that means. I know it means more work for me, but I don't know what else that means. And I think a large part of that, like, you probably both heard the saying, what's managed should be measured and vice versa, right? You can't create something new without being realistic about where you are, right? And when you're not, how do you build? So the question I have for both of you is examples, or I'm looking for, give me an example of a time where you saw your lack of measuring created a bad situation for yourself. Like you didn't manage the thing and it got out of control. Hey, why don't you go first? I got one, but everybody hear me talk all the time.
I would say lack of measurement would be knowing when you're supposed to say something and you don't, and just let it keep sliding to the point where it just explodes and it's too late.
Fair. Agreed. Do you have a certain instance you think about?
Man, there's so many. I gotta let it come to me. It's simple things like I don't like cigarettes or smoking weed. Like sometimes people will come up to me, smoke right in front of me. I'm like, I don't want to be so rude and say, yo, you gotta cut that out. I don't like smoke, but I just bite my tongue because I don't know how they're gonna react.
Fair.
They're gonna take it the wrong way, especially if they're young.
Fair. So what about you?
I'm gonna piggyback off of Junior and say, when it comes to my gut in a lot of relationships, I feel like I see certain things coming just based off of like past experiences. I'm picking up on body language, tonality, stuff like that. So I'm like, I see something that may be a problem for me in the future, or a problem for us, or a problem just for you. And a lot of the time I bite my tongue and I won't say the thing, and I'm learning now to plant that seed. It doesn't have to be rude, but say what's on your mind, say what came up in your gut, because you are, like, it came up for a reason. You're avoiding something and not saying it. So
That's fair. That's fair.
You definitely have to explain them.
Yeah.
Say you don't explain.
Yeah, facts. And that was one of the biggest parts about it, is like not knowing how to explain is what kept me from saying the thing. So getting better with my words is one of those things where I'm like, all right, I need to stay on top of that.
That's fair.
Be authentic.
So it's funny, right? Because I think differently than them, right? So Devin said, drop the seed, right? So as an example, we can use your situation. Someone's smoking and you don't smoke. My seed would be this. Like,
Yeah, I do.
clearly I don't want, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't do it.
I do
And then
that
they talk to
with
me. Yeah, see, that would be, again, those are letting you know it's causing me discomfort, right? Which is the same as letting you know that if you're an aware person, I'm not comfortable with you doing that, right? And then learning how people respond to it is where I've learned to be. This is where they say the whole emotional intelligence thing is learning. First of all, it's selfish for me not to share because I know it's affecting me, right? So as an example, right? Let's say someone was smoking in my face. I do that, and they keep going, and I'd be like, yo, my man, that's a lot. Can you put that out? And they would go, oh, whatever reaction they would have. Now, based on where I'm at, what's the reaction, right? Right? I definitely could think of one I had recently where my wife was very grateful. I went with her to a local, let's call it a franchise automobile shop. And she went up there because she thought they made a mistake when she took her car. And sometimes my wife likes to do things on her own, right? And when I went in, or when she went in, I looked. One of the things I hate seeing is going into a space where I know the owners are not of color, and everyone there is of color, and there's no respect, right? Like no respect. Like everybody's way in, they don't care, they're full staff, but there's not even a person watching the front desk, right? I hate that, right? So my wife pulled in, she parked in a spot. I didn't park in a spot. I blocked this little area that they needed to get cars through, right? I said, cool. I got out my truck, hopped out, went inside, and there was no one at the front. Everybody's waiting, mad, talking trash. Everyone's so mad, right? So I walk. I said, what are you waiting on? She said, I'm just waiting for somebody to come out. I said, I went to the back where he was at. I said, yo. They were like, oh, we'll be right with you. I said, or now, right? And then they were like, well, sir, we got a lot of, I said, she don't work on no car. She's supposed to be in the front. Come on, let her come to the front so she can help these people. And you know, but they let her come to the front, right? So there's your first example of like just bad service, yes? So what happened after that was more interesting. So she talked to my wife, they must have talked over the phone, so she was gonna go outside and test the car. The girl come outside that works there, she comes outside and one of the mechanics is mad and the girl's like, what's going on? He said, somebody effing truck parked here and this, that, the third, blocking stuff, right? And I'm the guy blocking stuff, right? So their immediate instinct, and this is why it's important to have like different people in your circle, their immediate instinct was to placate his assholery by doing the thing that made him stop yelling, right? My initial instinct is, what's your problem, right? Like what's the problem? How do we solve it, right? So based on how I feel about how you present yourself, I present myself in kind. So when he was yelling, I came outside like, what's the problem? He was like, oh, he want to move. I said, I bet he do. And I went doing exactly what they was doing. I didn't move. I didn't even talk to him. You the help. I ain't got nothing to say to you, but you gonna be rude. You get what I'm saying? Now again, you come a specific way, I'm cool with it. So my wife was like, you really not gonna move? I said, nah, fuck him. Just like that. Like he can wait, he'll be fine, right? And she said, da-da-da. So he got mad and he sat in his car, but he ain't say a word to me. You get what I'm saying? And this is me. This is how I determine how I deal with people or not. I don't deal with bullies the same way I deal with people who are genuinely trying to communicate, right? If you are a bully, I will respond to you differently, right? I just know it, right? So when he didn't say anything, I was like, that was the right move, because I might have pulled him out of his car that day. Like, I was ready to pull him out of his car that day. Anytime somebody gives me that abrasive, I'm ready for it to go down, because I understand. I understand what we're doing here. I understand that's not what you want to happen, but like, this is why my philosophy exists the way it does. This is why I'm always a warrior first, but I can guard. You get what I'm saying? Like, let me make sure, just in case something happens, I can protect mine, right? So he saw I can come outside with no hostility, right? Because if you know better, you know to be the great man, right? The great man is, he doesn't walk in black, he doesn't walk in white. I'm not harmless. I'm not a threat. You don't even see me. That's where I like to be, right? So that's why I wear hoodies all the time. That's why I cover up. I don't want you to even notice and I look like this. I want you to say the wrong thing and for me to completely house you and for you to not know it's coming. That's what I want, right? At all times, the potential for danger is my thing, right? So when this dude spoke, he looked at me. I didn't even, it wasn't like I got aggressive. He could wait and walk right by him, right? And I laughed because I know I learned that from Pops. Like Dad taught me that for sure. Like let them wait, right? And what happens in that moment, he's forced to face, because see, he should never have talked to her like that. He was bullying her. He looked at me as someone he may not be able to bully, which is why I never got anything, right? So they're like, you gotta make them comfortable. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have to make the bully comfortable, right? So I think, again, lost art forms. I call them lost art forms. I'm not looking for conflict. I'm just fully prepared for it, right? I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I whoop his behind. I've done that at one point where I went around volatile to everything. But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you get what you give, and if you show kindness, then I will give you respect. If you want respect, and I feel like this is every man's credos, whether they understand it or not. The woman, or the people in your life who show you respect, right? Let's say the women. The people in your life that show you respect are the ones that get your love. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
If you're not getting that, then that's what you return. So again, him saying nothing, once we were done, I moved my truck. Not a problem, right? Again, he understood the assignment, so did I. We knew what we were talking to, what was going on, this, that, and the third. I can give another instance where I had to almost house somebody. But it's again, it happens so often because that's how men live. We live in volatile space. We live in anger is the first emotion that we're told to share. So I say, be the gray man, right? And if you don't know what I mean, look it up. Like I'm telling you, there's some people I know in my life right now. If you looked at them, you wouldn't even know. But they are trained SEALs. I mean, they will tear people up if it ever comes down to it. You remember that whole sniping incident a while back? They had a hard time catching that black man and his son, didn't they? Right. He was trained, regular person. He just snapped. You get what I'm saying? Like, and again, I got my views on that. We ain't here for that. But at the same time, it's the space of being dangerous without being a threat. So that's why I like to live. I think that's basically how we train. It's always funny when new people come in because they're like, "This is different." Yeah. Right. Yeah.
A good difference.
Right. So I guess I would say, okay. So here's my question for two of you. So yes, we have things that make us who we are, right? Things that we value. Again, when uncomfort happens, here's an interesting question. What's your first response? Your first response to discomfort, and let's call it conflict.
Oh yeah, this so I'll give two answers. So there,
Right.
just recently, I'd say within the past year,
Mhm.
I've made a mental shift where I am responding to uncomfortable situations as
Fair.
opposed to reacting.
Fair.
I think it's a lot of like your subconscious is like self-defense mechanism to
Mhm.
react instead of respond when uncomfortable or when challenged. And that's the mental shift. Like I'd say this space has helped me with that. Pushing into intentional uncomfortability is the name of the game for me. Like, if you get ahead of the ball, if you're playing chess, not checkers, I am using my superpower where I see stuff, and I'm like, all right, I know could be a problem.
Right.
Let me intentionally bring it up. Let me intentionally get to that uncomfortability, and now I'm responding. I'm not reacting. The other person doesn't have to be triggered because I put the thought on, and I'm addressing it. I'm getting ahead of the ball, and that's changed the game with my relationships across the board. My relationships in my family, my relationships with friends, and relationships, you guys, everything,
sure.
it's changed. Like responding,
Not reiterating. That was great. That's good. That's real good.
A lot of people these days, holding conversations, they'll rather listen to respond than understand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how to say this nicely other than.
Just say it. We in a space where you can just say,
Times,
yeah.
your conversation, or she yelling at you, you got like 10 things to respond before you get a turn to speak. It's like, you gotta have that balance.
back and forth.
I used to tell my wife, I said, you like the greatest battle rapper of all time. Who's not listening? I was like, she was already ready. She heard one thing, and that was where she got stuck, even though I said two more, right? And then as soon as she get to talk, she just hot fire on that one thing until the whole conversation. I'm like, you didn't even listen to what I said, right? So we can't control other people. We can control ourselves, right? So I had to learn to speak so she could hear all three, right? And that's that whole emotional intelligence thing. Okay, great question. Great question. Because again, we are diving into relationships a little bit. Do most women you meet want an intelligent, emotionally intelligent man for real? Matter of fact, they want it, but can they handle it?
They think they do, but no.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
All right, so my answer is yes, they do.
Alright.
I just don't think they know what it looks like.
Oh.
So if you're not emotionally intelligent, because I used to do that,
Yeah.
the same thing. Where I'm like, oh, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, but I'm sequestering it and I'm not speaking.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the same thing. I want someone in my life who like understands me or can be romantic. I'm like, yo, but you don't see all the work that it took to get to that man being comfortable surprising me with something romantic.
Facts.
Like, you've known him for 2-3 years, he's not gonna surprise you with something that's like your ideal romanticism. It's gonna be a surprise, but you're gonna be like, ah, you fucked up. Now, 10 years of you explaining what it is that you consider romantic, explaining what it is that you consider a good surprise. Now, he can actually surprise you because you're not expecting it. You know, you're used to explaining yourself, and it's going to be a good surprise. Like, that's what you want, is you're looking for emotional intelligence, but it takes you nurturing the relationship, you nurturing that person to know you, and you to be emotionally intelligent in order to get it, receive it.
I'm gonna give it raw. Fuck no. You know, that's not what it look. It's nice in your dreams. It's not the same in reality. In your dreams, he placates you, he makes you feel good, he does everything he knows he's supposed to do. But ironically, emotional intelligence is the ability to communicate my emotions. Most women do not want a man to communicate their emotions to them. They want to feel their emotions are heard via the man. They're not the same thing, right? You're not asking for me to have the perfect response. You're asking for me to understand and communicate via what I feel as well. Again, that's emotional intelligence in and of itself, the ability to communicate your emotions, right? So, if you messing up, and again, here's what makes it interesting. As an emotionally intelligent man, dealing with a woman in my life, I had to learn to cut ties. Most of them don't want that. They'll say they want that. We heard it Saturday, but that's not what they want, right? So the whole conversation is different. I literally have had at least 3 women in the last year tell me that they want to live with a man, but in separate bedrooms. I want a husband. What is the point?
Partner.
Well, listen, we're just business partners now. That's it. We've agreed. Why don't I just, listen, if I can't do that, thank you. That's it. I get a friend do the same thing. Get one of my boys. I can move on with y'all. Right? We ain't doing that. We ain't fucking. So I can just hang out. Look, I know we can set a schedule. I know it's gonna be better. Like, there's no need for me to be with the opposite sex to just live in the same space. Like, that's not it. It's supposed to be a union. Now again, whether you believe in traditional marriage or not, it's a whole different conversation, right? But at the same time, union means coming together. How do you come together in separate rooms? It's crazy to me to hear those conversations. Again, I never heard those conversations until I became a trainer, right? Because they would come in and, like, people treat you like therapists. So you get to hear stuff you don't want to hear. You'd be like, I ain't gonna lie to you, I did not come here to hear about your 10th relationship in the last year. I just came here to ask you to pick the weight up and put it back down. That's really what I'm here for, right? But it ends up becoming that space. And it ends up becoming that space a lot of the times because people aren't necessarily comfortable being themselves, right? Like that's really what it is. It's like, oh, they believe like, you have been here. I love using this as an example. I remember there's a client, I've had them for a year and a half, and they just always closed off. So then one time I said, me and Devin was talking, I said, watch this. I said, I will not, nor will I have I ever thought about leaving you. I'm going to be here regardless of how you think. I said, so it's okay. You've watched their shoulders go from this to this. And ever since, I cannot get this person to shut up, right? And I don't want them to shut up. It's just one of those things where it's like, when you realize that most people in their lives think they need to be heard, but they're really asking to be seen, it makes you function different, right? There's been plenty of times, even between me and this guy, where he was like, you're not listening. I'm like, I'm definitely listening. I'm just not responding how you want, right? And that's not the same thing, right? Again, it's being emotionally intelligent, right? So I say that with much respectfully, of course, as much as I can for people who think they want an emotionally intelligent person but have never been with one. Because if you don't know, you don't know, right? But I would say, to draw home the point, I would say that emotional intelligence comes with its positives and its negatives, and you need to be aware of both. Stop asking for these general things. If you got somebody with checklists in relationships, if you got a checklist, treat it like a test. As long as they pass, maybe you should give them a passing grade, right? Oh, they don't hit everything on my my things. You got 20 things on your list, man. That's hard. Like you understand, that's real hard. And as a matter of fact, 5 of them are husbands who have 10 years in the game. right? You use the example of he can't do the thing you want.
Romanticism.
Yeah.
Romantic.
Romanticism, first of all, is very, very relative, and that's a problem, right? But like I'm gonna call bullshit on it. You could be in your first month and do it, but it depends on that woman's standards, though. Like her standards are, if we ain't making we ain't making a 6-figure income with the both of us, and you got a Dubai message in your head for the most part, like that don't make no sense. You got to bring your standards down. You know what I'm saying? We not going to Dubai on $80,000 a year. It's not going to happen, right? Not in a way that allows for us to build sustainability. Because see, what'll happen, and this is interesting. In relationships, there's always the planner, and there's always, let's call them the giver. Okay, so I feel like I'm using my relationship as an example. Ours fluctuates so much, right? Like Ashley has always been better with finances than me, right? In the last couple of years, I've had to learn to get better with finances in order to do what I want to do. And now I feel like it's more me. Like I'm looking at creating legacy via financial decisions versus how do we pay our bills. So that's an ebb and flow moment, right? Good relationships ebb and flow. So as an example, my wife has never asked to go to Dubai. Never. I've been married to this woman for 18 years. She has never asked me to take her out of country. I've chosen to do things with my wife, but she's never asked. She's always been like, I used to call her my round-the-way girl. And what I mean by that is like, you know that LL Cool J song. It reminds me, she reminds me of someone who loves me for me and looked for me to be me. And then when I wasn't the best version of me, she stayed with me, which allowed for me now, as this mature, everybody loves it version, to give her respect, irregardless of the things that she does, right? How many women stick with their men through the bad times? There we go.
And also, I'll say that's a big part of the first question you asked is,
Sure.
you're talking about what's important for building rapport.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest part. It's like, things are going to be hard. I'm starting to realize that looking back on my past relationships, someone left. You know, either I left and I was triggered too much and I was like, I gotta leave, or they were triggered too much and they had to leave. And the hard part is staying, and the only way to stay and get through it is to work through yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't be triggered as much.
That's
You know,
yeah.
so like, I'm like, the more you work on yourself, the more you realize you have the capacity to stay and nurture someone and like be there for them when they're at their worst, even though you're getting closer and more intertwined.
Fair. Yeah. I like it. And again, a lot of it, just keep it real. Stop asking for a 5-year in a relationship husband when you ain't even a 6-month girlfriend. You get what I'm saying? And the same thing goes for fellas. You can't ask for a wife and you're a boyfriend, right? Or you're a side piece. Like, let's just keep it honest, right? You need to be the type of, I always say, be the type of person you want people to be around you, right? So if I want everybody to be consistent, I need to be consistent myself. If I want to be in circles and places where they build generational wealth, then I probably need to be on that way by myself, right? And that takes a lot of building of you, not a lot of, let's say, partying and hanging and, you know, people call it networking when you know it ain't networking. That event ain't got nothing to do with networking. You get what I'm saying? You're partying, you know it, but you know it. You get what I mean? You know what type of shindig you signed up for, right? I laugh when people be like, man, I'm always networking, and it'll be part of some group. And I'd be like, yeah, but what's that group done for you though? Like, is there anything that's come from being there outside of the next event? Well, if that's the case, then you might be wasting your time. Now again, that don't account for everything, like the information they gave you that you just didn't use, or the let's say the relationship you built that you haven't had a communication with, which is why rapport is important, right? I have laughed because, and y'all can speak to this now, as men, there are way less spaces in Rochester, New York for us to build together than there are for women. I see women, they do stuff, I mean, all the time, right? And I definitely had to look at it different, like say like my circles needed to change. But like, dudes get together and party with you. But asking to build with you, it becomes a different conversation, a much harder conversation. Trust becomes part of it, right? So what's the part of the reason? Right, that's what I'm saying.
Competition.
Yeah, I'd be like, listen, man, like, again, if we got the money to go in on something, and like, does it matter whose name is at the front as long as we are legally bound to the thing? Like, don't take advantage of me, but at the same time, I'm willing, right? But again, that's a certain level of humility that I have. Life has taught me that. I'm here now. If you had asked me that in my 20s, I think I would have responded the same way.
I actually want to speak to that. Like,
Yeah.
The humility is the stepping down from ego, the ego death, whatever you want to call it. I've had to have a lot of those recently, and I realized how hard it is when you first start to humble yourself. Like, if you feel like you want to be a leader, and someone else takes the leadership position, it's very easy to like critique. You know, it's very easy to
Oh, to sit back. Oh, yeah.
and,
Oh, yeah.
and with your arms folded and be like, he ain't doing it right. You know? But
If that was me.
But what's cool about it is like if you can humble yourself
Yeah.
and you can take yourself out of I want to be this and just fall into the role that you're supposed to. Now it makes the leader's job a lot easier, and now they can actually lean on you. You know, and you can see from not a critiquing standpoint when they need some help. You know, and you can step up because you have it in you to be a leader.
Yeah.
It's just not in this instance that you're a leader, and like. I think that's the biggest, like, where jealousy and the things come up in men groups where I'm like, all right, there's a lot of ego here where,
Facts.
yo, just pick a role. It's okay to be the learner, be the workhorse, you know. And
The worker bee.
yeah, exactly.
See, but I learned that a minute ago. See, that's why I said I had to change my rooms, right? Because in certain spaces, yeah, like, if I talk about the cats I grew up with, right? I grew up kind of poor with all this stuff. I ain't trying to sensationalize nothing, but from that space, it was dog eat dog. Everybody was trying to claw over everybody else. And, you know, I think if I had 10 good friends from back in the day, I'm talking about years ago, like let's say 20 years ago, I'm probably still good friends with like maybe 2 out of the 10. And the reason being is because that dog eat dog mentality, if you don't unlearn it, it doesn't help you. Now, there are certain spaces where it's absolutely necessary, right? And that's where I've learned to use it to my advantage, right? But at the same time, you know, like, look, I talk about owning this space, right? Owning this space, man, you know how many times I tried to work with other black trainers in the area and build something amazing and said, let's come together, let's put these funds together, let's do something. The egos in the room is insane. Insane. And then I would go right down the road. I'd be like, you know, I'd be doing my thing, one talking. Somebody would see me, and I'd come to one of the, let's say I go to a men's meeting, bunch of white guys in the room, right? They offering their resources, come see me. This is how we do things. Let me show you my books. I'm like, I can steal all of this. And they don't care because they're coming from an abundance mindset. They're literally giving it to me to say, take this and use it. Hey, call me if you have questions. We'll work it out together. No benefit, like no benefit to them as far as like what I'm doing from what they're giving. And that's why I said changing the rooms completely changed my conversation, brother. Like, you gotta realize a lot of the stuff that you want ain't found in the jealousy and the hate and all the other nonsense that people do on a regular basis. If I want growth, you know, I need to be a proponent of it, right? The reason why this space is the way it is because I came in and said, we different, right? I started different, right? And all of a sudden, it started to show up. You know how many times people have come and gone for me to be at this space, be at this big space? You've seen some of it, but it's been like 4 different times I lost the whole crowd and had to start over because of my mistakes, right? I'm gonna be honest and own what it is. I've made mistakes, right? And sometimes the way, the direction you're moving just isn't the direction it's supposed to go. So that was the hardest lesson for me in opening this space right here, was realizing, I was like, we can work together. We can't work together. I'm supposed to lead. Like, I know I'm supposed to lead, but I was supposed to lead with my wife. You get what I'm saying? We were supposed to do this unity thing, and then she didn't want to do it anymore, right? Or it became burdensome for her. And then God was like, all right, here you go. And I'm like, nah, I don't really, I don't know, I'm just depending on other people. Man, he shut that down in so many different ways. In the last year and a half, I'm gonna say the last 2 years, so many different ways. Then I step into it, and man, we've had some of the best time. We made some of the most currency that we've made since the space has been open by my faithfulness. So again, and I'm in groups where the clients, the people who invest, who come in here and spend their money with me are the people I'm sitting with. You get what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's wild because I saw it different, right? But I'm so grateful for the fact that I was open-minded. I just sat at a bar with one of my clients who's a whole engineer, runs a whole chemical plant, like one of the biggest plants in our area. He's the boss, and he's now gonna help me with engineer stuff anytime I need it, just because I asked. He helped me put up curtains for the space, the sign in the front. My boys didn't show up for that. He did. You get what I'm saying? Like, and it only is possible because of my open-mindedness, right? Like we sat and I said, I feel I ain't got nothing to give you. And he showed me I do. He showed me that the way I've been built, the things that I've done, there's value that I don't understand, which is why people have given to me. So that imposter syndrome we all talk about, I was experiencing it. I was like, oh, I ain't got really nothing to give, so I'm just trying to be part of. I'm coming in with humility, and imposter syndrome is trying to kick me out the door. So all I'm trying to do, I'm like, okay, how do I fight that, right? I spoke. I built rapport, right? Like me saying, yeah, I'm not really sure what I can offer, but I'm willing. And they're like, well, what do you do? And I tell them, they're like, that's amazing. Why don't you do that? Bring that here. I'm like, oh, like the people I have gotten to know in the last couple of years, like that's why you see me. I don't go to no disrespect to their stuff. I don't go to certain events. I don't mingle with people I feel like want to take. I want to mingle with people who want to give. And if you give it, we got conversation. I've called about 3-4 people that people don't even know I know. One of them came to my baby shower, right? Turb. People don't know I know Turb like that. They just think like, oh, you know, yeah, we seen you together once or twice. It's like, no, that's my brother, right? Like that's somebody I really trust. That's somebody I love. I would do anything for. And I got a couple of those. Those aren't my day ones. They're my day twos. Mm-hmm. They the people who came in later and said, we just want to be part of your life, right? Now I'm learning about my day threes. My day threes are like guys like you guys. And again, as we build, and the twos are the ones ain't better than the threes. Like I had to learn that, brother. Like where we come from, loyalty is everything. So for me, it's like, well, where does loyalty be built from? Why do we feel that way? Because we shared space, or did we create bond? So rapport became a large part of that. My humility allowed for your growth. You get what I'm saying? In the right circle. So that's how I look at it at all times. And you can't help me, like you're gonna taught me a bunch. There, you know how many times I want to go off the rails. I'm watching this dude go like just silently do the work, and I'm like, damn, I gotta go home and make sure I do the work today. Like it's inspiring being in the right spaces and places with the right people, right? And you gotta even say nothing sometimes. Sometimes it's just the presence, purpose, right? So I don't know. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it in general. Is rapport is something we use by building rapport. And having, let's say, humility, you can then get yourself in a better position. So the emotional intelligence that everybody says that they want, you notice this in spades in this current circle we're talking in, right? Okay, so the whole thing it's not for us to agree on everything. It's to create a space where we can have a conversation about anything, right? We can sit and talk for hours. Look, we done burned up an hour and some time already. Just sitting here talking. It's not hard to have real good conversation with good people. But get yourselves in the rooms, right? Like that's the whole thing. Get around people who want to do it. Like I'm telling you, I love my peoples, but I know for a fact that the direction I want to go is different than the direction that they think I should go. And that's where we have to find different ways. Still go back and visit them, show them love, but like I give with the idea of not receiving back. I give with an open heart. I don't give like, I know this is an investment into you where I'm going to get my money back. No, this is just an investment into you, right? And that's different.
From a space with abundance.
Oh yeah, which is hard. It was hard. Look, growing up the way I grew up, that's hard.
So
right?
I mean,
Yeah, okay. That's because I ain't gonna lie. Somebody come with their hand out, I'd be like, you don't even need money. Like that's it. They could be whole struggling, right? But again, I had to learn to give, and I've had some people call me at some hard times, and I've been grateful and thankful in enough space of abundance to be able to give. Hey man, I'm gonna pay you back. I'm like, I'm not worried about it, dog. If you want me back, pay me back. And they're like, yo, you serious? I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Is that helping you? All right, cool, right? I won't give to a bum, but I give to you. I give a bum a job, but I won't give out money, and that's a lot of it is because I feel like that should be as a creed or how I carry myself as a man. I give to those who are willing to do for themselves. I want to be with people who want better for themselves and are willing to push for it. I want to stop having conversations with those who want to remain stagnant. Stagnant is not my purpose, right? So look, don't we all come here on Sunday and get up even outside of the stuff and die, right? Like I'll be in here dying and then you be like, yeah, man, that was good. Like that's a whole different, you understand? Like think about all the people in here. How many people I had on my side?
A handful. Yeah.
A handful in a space probably full of like, let's say no less than 7,500 people. A handful. 5. You get what I'm saying? Have some conversations though. You have some conversations with people, you realize it's probably close to about 15. Probably close to about 15. But them same people, man, they so guarded. You understand? It took me so long to get to know them people. I'm looking at products from one of them people right now, right? Guarded, right? So if we learn anything today or anything we talk about, if anybody watching this can learn anything from it, is that rapport can help you get to a position in rooms that you don't necessarily belong in based on who you think you are, right? So I would say, and I'm gonna let Junior close this one because I'm curious what he has to say about this, like closing statements, right? I would say that if you want to change who you are, you need to be in a space to receive criticism and talk about those things. What you got to say? I saw your face. He wants to say something like 20.
I say, don't be afraid to be wrong. That would be your biggest learning moment. And that's where you learn what you need to do in order to become the better person that you were yesterday.
Fair. What you got?
That's the big thing in that perspective.
Okay. All right.
I also have to say, in being wrong, or humbling yourself enough to be wrong, you're putting yourself in that position where you're not the leader. You're also having that ego that all of these things are necessary for you to build your forward growth, and it's also necessary for you to build self-confidence, and I call it self-trust. You know, if you fail and you learn something from it, you do it again, and you do it better. Subconsciously, when you go to bed, you're like, I learned something. You know, and that's when you wake up the next day, you got more self-confidence. You go get a million back, right? Learn something.
Is it safe to say that working out has taught us all the lesson of delayed gratification? Like, you don't just get stronger from one workout. It usually takes a couple different times. And then you realize, like, damn, consistency is a superpower. And then you start doing it. Then you realize in your life, and then when you get to that space, that's where you kind of start seeing your faults. It takes humility to come in and push yourself and possibly fail. Right? You can't be in a humble space. So that's true. Like, you know, you're not going to get stronger. We see this all the time. There's guys I will see in the gym for years. They're using the same weight. They're doing the same things. There's no improvement whatsoever. It's become their routine, which is great for them, right? But it's bad for their overall growth. Yes. So I would say, I would agree. I would say that the closing statement is learning how to be consistent can be a superpower for any single person who's willing to be part of this. And again, building rapport requires consistency. Like, that's my whole message here. If you notice, my whole message here is truly consistency, right? But at the same time, don't let yourself fall short because of what you think you don't have, right? Use your consistency to build your confidence, which then will help you be the person you want to be.
Just don't be afraid to be you.
Hey. Thanks. All right, everybody. Oh, we gonna close it here. All right. Just because, look, I think it's been more than an hour. We've been sitting here chatting for more than an hour. So it's about 9:30. I said, I'm eating the hell out of these oranges. We gonna go get some food. That tells you how hungry I am. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. And I said, talk soon.
Peace.
Peace.